Hey everyone, welcome to A Mess Nonetheless. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Melissa, and we are sisters. And if you happen to be seeing us like on YouTube, you'll see we're in the same room.
Hey, we're in Arizona together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually literally sitting right next to each other, which is super weird.
We're touching.
Also slightly inconvenient because we cannot mute ourselves when we need to
Cough
or take a drink of water.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, we have no children or dogs to talk to.
Yes.
Because we do have to mute for them a lot. Husbands
yes.
too.
In the background, we're often keep going. Oh, and if you can't see us, we're pointing at people. Dangerously.
As we're doing it, we're
half of you can't see us.
Oh my gosh. So this is super fun that we're on round 2 of this recording. Because Melissa realized well into the other one, whoops, she was on mute.
Yep, and we can hear in our earbuds, whatever. I can hear, and it sounded weird, but I thought it sounded weird because I was sitting next to Rachel versus whatever. And
so here we are again.
Hi, take 2.
Thank you guys, but
no. Hopefully this time will just be even better and not worse.
I hope so.
Yeah.
We'll see. So today we're going to talk about women, well, not even just women, people complimenting other people.
Mm-hmm. Saying the compliments that are in your head.
Yeah.
People.
We were just talking about how there are people who are just very naturally complimentary. They just see something, say something, see something, say something.
Okay. I think that's a police slogan.
I think it's about a shooter. It's not good. It's not
no, different thing.
But I like to see something, say something when it comes to things. In our first time recording this, we aren't just talking about how people look physically. That's great too. Love your shirt, love your earrings, those are so cute, whatever. That's great. But we're talking about things like, man, I really admire that person. I really like how they parent. Mm-hmm. She's really respectful of her spouse, or he's really kind to his wife, things like that. Or to a pastor, that sermon was great. Or thank you for leading our church. Or to your worship people.
Yeah.
I know you come here hours and hours early and you practice through the week. Thank you. And I recognize that. So just pointing out things that we see in other people, because it can make people's day. It can change. It can make their day. It can make their week. But it can shift. For me, I think it can shift lies.
Oh, yeah.
That we have begun to believe.
Yeah, because it's easy for us to, believe the worst in ourselves. It's easy for us to not know if what we're putting out there is beneficial to people. If people never say it. We were saying how, so we both have spoken. Rachel speaks way more and preaches way more than I ever have, but I've spoken plenty of times. And since I have started becoming a speaker, I've make a pointed effort to make sure I compliment speakers when I hear them, because it's easy to just think, well, if they've been asked to speak, of course they know they're good, but it can be terrifying standing in front of people and sharing things. And if it doesn't go the way you want it to go, or if it's just, sometimes there's certain subjects or just talks that you're a little bit more insecure about delivering.
Or the enemy attack.
Yes, absolutely. So to be able to say to them, that was phenomenal, or this is how it touched me, or this is what spoke to me, they need to hear that. And so, yeah. Yeah.
And I was thinking too about how, you had started saying this in our last time we recorded this, that, tell about your women's thing. She was saying how reaching out to someone or going up to someone or saying something even simple, I like your earrings. Or whatever.
So
down barriers.
I am brand new at a church that we have started attending, and we have fallen in love with it. And so we're really trying to get to know people. By brand new, I went to a women's retreat when we'd been there about 3 months. And so I basically knew nobody. I'd known 2 women, met them the month before. So I kind of had a connection, but that was it. And so
now that I think about it, it's kind of surprising because it's very close to where you live.
What is?
The church.
It's not close to where I live. It's half an hour. It's in a totally different community.
Ramsey.
Yeah. Totally different community.
Thinking, it's so surprising you don't know anyone who goes to that church.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Is that 30 minutes from your house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a completely different community that we live in. So anyway, so I'm at this place trying, really hard to stay out of my head and just to engage with people and talk to people. And
women get in their heads.
I know. It's a thing. I might be the only one though.
So you were in your head.
Sorry, I'm playing with something. Oh, I didn't realize I was making any noise.
I'm going to have to edit that.
And so I wasn't in my head. I was working really hard not to be in my head. And but there was this one group of women who just really looked very put together and just kind of, I don't know, just that group. I remember thinking to myself, if I was 10 years ago when I was more insecure than I am now, because I'm a fairly secure person, I would be very intimidated by them. And I wasn't intimidated, but I definitely noticed them and felt like because they weren't necessarily interacting with me at all or even really making eye contact, which is fine. And but then later one of them came up to me, and then the rest followed, and she was like, did I tell you how cute your hair was yesterday or today or whatever? And I was like, no. She was like, oh, I thought it every time I saw you, I just saw how cute it was, and I just wanted to tell you how adorable it was. And it like totally took down this barrier that I was trying not to have between us, but kind of accidentally got bit just because I felt a little, I wasn't intimidated. That's not the right word, but for lack of a better word, a little bit of something, just.
We're a little intimidating.
Yeah.
And you were trying really hard not to be intimidated. Yes. And what's interesting about that is that if you had not had that experience with them and never spoke to them, they never spoke to you, and then you saw them at church, now it's going to build.
Right.
And you're
right.
Like, oh, they didn't say hi to me this time. So they really must not like me. Or maybe I did something. And then like, now maybe there's a retreat in the spring and you go and then they don't talk to you again. Meanwhile, they might be thinking, oh, she's just not really interested in being our friend because she's never said hi to us.
And instead, because the one who came up and told me how cute my hair was, she started crying and she goes, I don't know, there's something about you that I feel so drawn to. I've wanted to talk to you all weekend. She's like, can I have your phone number? So now instead we have phone number. And it was like a 5-minute conversation at the most.
And all because she stepped out of her comfort zone and was willing to reach you with something about you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just love that.
I know.
I think it is so phenomenal. And I do think, kind of just observing the world around me, that most people are not naturally complimentary.
I think because it's true. I feel like a lot of my friends will even say that. They're like, I think it all the time. Like, I think this about you all the time but I don't know why I don't say it. And so it's not that people are unkind. I think it's just easy to just not say it. And so we were just, and it's, I think, so words of affirmation are very important to me. And I think that they are to you too, Rachel. They are enough that, because usually we're good at doing what we need. And it's something both of us tend to be more aware of, just, and it's not, not props to us. It's just the way that we're designed. And we like to say the things to people.
I think we both would be naturally more complimentary than the normal person, but then we're sisters.
Yeah.
And so then we feed off of each other. So it's like, I think that has made something that was already there, like even more prevalent in our life.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so just looking around and thinking, I think a lot of the world doesn't take time to say to people, or maybe they're just not brave enough. I don't know what it is. I actually don't know what it is.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
It
would be interesting for those of you listening. If you're like, I don't compliment a lot. Why don't I? Are you afraid to step out of your, does it feel like you're out of your comfort zone? Is it that your mind is moving too fast that you just, you think it and you forget about it before you even have a chance to say it? Like
a jealousy thing at play. Like, I guess that's probably not the biggest component, but I'm sure it becomes.
It could be for sure. Yeah. In fact, the people that I tend to be jealous of are the hardest ones for me to compliment, because then it's like I'm admitting that they're better than me. No, that's not at all it, but it can feel that way.
I totally get it.
And so as I've gotten older, I make myself say the things to someone who might be someone could be jealous of.
Honestly, I think to loosen the
barrier down. Yeah.
Give the enemy like a football bear. Yeah. I was like, I'm sure that's what you were going to say.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's just really interesting. And then one thing we were discussing too is that oftentimes people do say the complimentary things about people
to other people.
Else.
Yeah.
I mean, like growing up with our one grandma, our dad's mom, she would go on and on and on about how great everyone else's family was doing.
Yeah.
Our cleaning lady's kids, our uncle's kids. She never asked us anything about herself. She never, for all I knew, she didn't really care about us. But then I'd find out she was telling everyone else about us.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's funny because I think our dad has said to me, I'm trying to remember when he said it to me, if it was recent or like a long time ago, but I feel like he was like, oh, like she's my mom. Like I can be like that. And he's like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
Like I have the pride and joy for people and like the admiration.
Yeah.
And that's clear because I'm telling other people, but I need to make sure to say
it to the people. Yeah.
Yeah.
To my kids or my grandkids or my wife or whatever. Yeah.
Because otherwise people make assumptions. If you hear from someone, and it does depend on your relationship, of course, but let's just say we're speakers on a stage, right? And not once has anyone ever come up and said, great job. Well, it would be very natural to assume I'm
not a good speaker.
I am not good at this. Like we were talking about singing voices, and if you've got other people in your life who sing and they never say you have a good voice, you're like, they must think I don't have a good voice.
Yeah,
it's just can sing, and
it's just easy to assume the worst, because it's easy for us to just assume the worst of ourselves, right?
Yeah,
that's just kind of how we're created. It seems like.
What was it, Mom? Was it Mom that was saying the other day something about it takes 90 seconds to believe a good thing about ourselves,
and like
6 or
3 seconds or something
believe something negative.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not making that up.
Yeah. No, something like that. Yeah.
Well, don't quote us on those exact numbers. Right. It was very similar to that. And I watched this really interesting thing on Instagram the other day. I actually just posted it on my stories today. I'm going to try to remember to come back and post it on the story for our podcast when this comes out. And on the screen, the guy said, I'm going to have everyone listen to these words being this saying be repeated 4 times. It's going to be on the screen, the words. And it was, this is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh. And then he's like, what did you guys hear? Everyone had heard this is embarrassing. And we're reading it. And then he plays it again. And all of a sudden it's saying something about Bart Simpson and something about shopping at Nordstrom's. And it's saying all these things, but it sounds like as they're putting it on the screen, the words that you're hearing, though they were the same words, they match what now I'm reading on the screen. So what all these new phrases also, have you ever heard a song and you think the words are something and that makes perfect sense, even though it doesn't actually make sense, but you just think that? And it's because that's exactly what it sounds like. And so it was that kind of a thing where it's like, now I'm going to give you 7 different examples of something that also matches up with this.
Sure.
And once I gave you the words,
that's what you think.
But everyone heard, this is embarrassing, this is embarrassing, this is embarrassing. And he was like, we do not have the same perceptions, like every single different person. If there had been no words on the screen, 7 people might have heard 7 different things.
Sure.
Because it could have been 7 different things. And that just, I just think it's such a good reminder to me that I can think I'm being very clear. I can think that someone knows exactly how I think about them or feel about them. But if I don't say it, I really am leaving it up to their discretion or their perception, their version of reality.
Yep.
Whatever lens, they look through life. If they, have a little bit of a victim mentality, they might, even the nicest things they do might somehow have a negative spin on it or whatever. And so I just think sometimes we just have to clear the air.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't feel like the air needs to be cleared, just tell people what we think about them in the best way,
Yeah.
Were you going to say something?
I think I was, and it's not there anymore.
And I mean, we talked in the beginning about how it makes people's day. Like people brighten up. Like if I walk into a bathroom and there's 3 women in there and everyone's just washing their hands and ignoring each other and standing in line. And then I'm like, oh, I really like your hair.
Yeah.
And then someone else is like, yeah, and I noticed I liked your glasses. And then that person's like, oh, I liked your pants. And now all of a sudden the whole ladies room is chatting. And it's not like we have to develop these lifelong friendships. What if someone walked into that room and like having the worst day?
Right.
And then all of a sudden they got to be part of either being complimented or now they're complimenting someone else or even just experiencing the joy of what happens to women when we have these kinds of conversations.
Yeah. It's like everything opens up. It's really kind of phenomenal how, I mean, I'm literally just, I'm imagining a few women in a room that don't know each other and no one's talking and how easily it is to just start having feelings about what they might be thinking of you. And the minute someone says something nice to someone else, everything is opened up. Like it really is kind of incredible.
It is. I mean, it almost seems scientific. Like, I want someone to do a science experiment on this and I want to read all the data. Because I don't know what questions to even ask, but I know that it's like it has to change something.
I was going to say, if you like did an MRI of a brain of someone who feels insecure or uncomfortable in a situation, and then somebody in that same situation compliments them, something lights up in their brain. That
I have. To. Also, I do want to talk about the people who are terrible at receiving compliments.
Oh yeah, let's talk to you.
I think we should
be better.
I have to. Get it together.
Do better.
Do better. No, I think we should address that because I have a feeling there's a number of you. I really wish people could just raise their hand. Raise your hand right now if you're listening. And people are probably listening to this going, oh, I'm terrible. Not maybe they compliment or don't, but they're like, I'm terrible at receiving compliments. And so let's talk about what that can do in a relationship.
Yeah.
So
I always tell you when I have friends who are terrible at receiving compliments, I say, the word you're looking for is thank you, Melissa.
Yes. I think what you meant to say.
And they're like, they laugh. And they're like, I know, you're right. Sorry. Thank you. I just have such a hard time hearing anything good about myself, which is something that is sad because I love hearing good things about myself.
It's my favorite.
I give people plenty of space to keep going.
Sure. You're saying.
I know. Oh, that's it? You're done?
We're not really like that.
No, not at all.
But we do. I mean, we recognize the value in not only receiving a compliment, but like allowing it to wash.
I was going to say, letting it soak in. Yeah.
Because we are so busy believing lies about ourselves. The enemy is so good at, and the world, I think too, is good at just pouring in negativity.
Yeah.
And we latch onto that pretty easily.
Yeah.
So it's about time that we start latching on to the good things.
Yes.
Like, obviously, we've talked in the past about reading scripture and seeking truth. So what does God say about his love for us and who we are in the scriptures, but also just the people he made, the other people he made in his image, to be in relationship with us.
And he can use people to speak life into us and truth into us. And so, so I know we don't normally do a challenge halfway through, but I'm going to say right now, challenge. Next time someone gives you a compliment, because most of us, I think, are naturally not good at receiving compliments. Like I had to practice getting better at receiving compliments because my husband's super complimentary. So, we've been together for almost 30 years. So when we started dating and he would say nice things about me, it was easy to be like, okay, whatever, like blow it off. And he'd be like, I'm telling you something really nice about yourself. Could you like hear it? And now I love hearing compliments and from him. I mean, from anyone, but from him. And so my challenge is the next time someone says a compliment to you, pause, hear it, and acknowledge it. Like thank them for it. And if you don't believe it, spend some time thinking, like after you walk away from them, spend some time thinking, why can't I believe this nice thing someone said about me? Most people don't compliment if they don't mean it. Like because like we're saying, a lot of people struggle to even think to say the compliment. And so, and so most people aren't saying it to be fluffy and just put it out there. They're really meaning it. And so it'll change your heart and your mind and your spirit if you let yourself believe the beautiful things people have to say about you.
Well, and I think, yes, I agree with that. But also I think if you are someone who is bad at receiving compliments, the people around you will stop complimenting you.
That's true too.
Because it becomes quite a chore.
Yes.
And it's like, your hair's really cute like that. And it's like, oh, no.
No, it's terrible.
I think we all do that sometimes. Yeah. Like, no, really, I love it. You should wear it like this. No, I hate it. Like, it's disgusting. Like, please don't tell me,
Right. Okay, never mind.
Like, if you think about, like, examine yourself in light of these things. Like, do I compliment people? Why or why not? Like, we talked about that at the beginning. Do I receive compliments?
Yeah.
How do I receive them?
Yeah.
And do I make people around me feel comfortable complimenting me?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, there's so many aspects of this.
Yeah.
And because we wrote a title and didn't plan anything, they're coming to us on the fly. This is definitely probably one of our least planned for
structured.
podcasts,
Yeah.
That's right. I think it's great.
Well, one of the things is that if you're thinking, I'm sorry, I blanked for a second. If you're thinking, I want to be better at receiving compliments, but I don't know how because I don't know what to say when someone compliments me, it really truly can be as simple as thank you. That means a lot. Like you don't, it's not, you're not being prideful. Like we just smiled for a picture. And so if you think, well, I don't want to be boastful. I don't want people, I don't want to think too highly of myself. Accepting what someone is saying nice about you, that's just a gift. There's nothing. Nothing. I can't think of my words. There's nothing.
Just a bunch of nothing. It's done. You can receive a compliment without even saying, I believe that is true. Receiving a compliment is not the same as agreeing with it. Now, we think we've already
okay to agree with it.
We think it's
to soak it in. Yeah.
Like, if someone says, wow, you're a really good mom, like, I think it's good inside your heart to go, thank you, Lord. Like, how far we've come. Like, I've worked really hard on this. We've worked really hard on this. Right. So that is acknowledging something like that. If someone says you're a really good mom, I'm not going to be like, I know God and I have worked really hard. That's not what we're saying. But also,
but you can say, thank you. I actually have been very intentional. That
even if you're like super insecure about being a mom, you can still be like, that really means a lot to me. Thank you.
Exactly.
You can even say, I'm really struggling right now.
Yeah.
So that
means a lot. Yeah. Well, I remember
you don't even have to be agreeing that you think you're a good mom.
Yeah.
It's like there's so many ways that it can go.
I remember one time being in the grocery store with all 5 of my kids, and I have 5 kids about 6.5 years apart. So when they were little, they were all little together, and so we kind of created a scene. I feel like everywhere we went because people would often ask if this was my daycare and things like that, and so I was really, 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 really particular about how they behaved in public, because if I have 5 kids going all sorts of ways and doing all sorts of things, I mean,
have one doing it, the other
they all are going to, and I'm like, I don't want us to get in people's way. I don't want to create a spectacle, and so I had pretty high expectations of how they behaved in like a grocery store. Like if they could do one touch things, like they could walk around and touch things with one finger touch, because if they start grabbing things, but if they can touch things and then they're not, and
you're not saying no to everything.
Yeah. Good parents. And if they couldn't handle that, then they had to walk with their hands on their. Yep. Anyways, all that to say, I remember this one time feeling like, oh my gosh, they're not listening well. Like I just, like I said, we would create a scene just walking into a store, even if they were being perfect. So if I felt like they were not being great, I would get very anxious. And this older woman came up to me and she said, oh my gosh, your kids are so well behaved. She goes, you are an incredible mom. And I like could have started crying because I was like, what? Like, I feel like we're having the worst day here. And so whatever she was seeing was obviously not near as catastrophic as it felt to me. And she took time to tell me, and it literally made the rest of the trip better because I was like, okay, I could like sigh a deep sigh. Okay, we're not making a scene the way I feel like we're making a scene. They're not being as terrible as listeners as it feels.
You put in is paying.
Yeah.
Someone is seeing.
Yeah. And she didn't have to come up and tell me, but she has no idea. Like this was like 15 years ago, and this still is in my mind. Like that's how much it meant to me. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's a really good point.
Yep.
Yep.
We've got the words today, guys.
We do have the words. Well, and it's interesting because like for the longest time, for me growing up, I heard over and over and over, you talk too much, you talk a lot, Rachel mile a minute, like you ask too many questions. I mean, I had adults who should have been in a position of like loving me or leadership over me definitely speak into my life that I was too much.
Yeah.
And it was all surrounded by my mouth. And I'm not joking. And isn't it so interesting that God definitely uses my mouth as a ministry? Like podcast, teaching, like
singing.
Singing, my online reels, preaching, all of that. And it's interesting because I'm in seminary and I had this 2 professors at the same time, 2 different classes, and they both told me within like a week that they loved how I wrote and they could tell I must be a gifted speaker because they're like, usually gifted speakers are very easy to read.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And ironically, in college, I got horrible grades on writing.
Oh, funny.
Because I couldn't do it the way people wanted me to. I only know how to write the way that
you talk
sense to me. Yeah. And the way I talk, which, isn't very academic. Of course, now I can write really academic papers, but this was 20 plus years ago. And so I had all these insecurities about the way I write or communicate in writing or speak. And God has used those not only in my life, but of course in the lives of people I minister to. He uses me to minister to. And I needed people to come alongside of me and start speaking
life over
what other words had felt like death.
Yep.
Because I would never have gotten on stage and started speaking if I had never had somebody or multiple people come and affirm me, because
I'm sorry.
Because that's kind of the power of
words.
And yes, thank you. That's not even what I was going to say, but that's way better than what I was going to say. That's the power of our words. It can be so negative and it can be so positive. And so, especially if you're like a parent, I mean, man, isn't it so easy sometimes just to focus on the things our kids are doing wrong? I'm exactly the same way. I'm no different in that, but we have to speak life over our kids because they're hearing all the things we're saying. You got to work on. It is our job to teach our kids to work on things. Right.
Well, I was going to say there's been periods. I have 2 boys specifically that I can recall when they were younger, going through really hard times with them, feeling like, oh my gosh, it's just, we have to be on top of them one thing after another. Like they're just getting everything wrong and their attitudes are terrible and they're not reacting well. And in both of those times, and when I would be praying, like, Lord, how do we get through to them? He was like, start complimenting them, start saying the good things to them. Like, even if it's so small, like, thank you, that was a really good job putting your dish in the dishwasher. Like, this should not be something we need to compliment our kids about. But he was right. He was in such a bad space that I had to find small things. And it literally both times has changed our relationship. It's not that it took all the problems away, but it stopped being so combative because he wasn't just always feeling like everything you're doing is wrong. And
well, and this goes the same for our marriages too.
Right. Absolutely.
Like if I'm in a season right now where I'm like, I have to start speaking more positively to my husband because my brain is starting to follow the negativity. And I don't think I'm being super disrespectful. I'm just sharing with people like my sister or my mom or whatever. And as a result, I'm like, this isn't making me feel better.
Right.
And so I'm working really hard on that because I'm like, my husband has so many things going for him that I am so thankful for. And I need to shift my words and focus to
absolutely
that.
We can get in a tailspin of only nitpicking and seeing the things that frustrate us about them. And when we reverse it by starting to compliment the things, it changes everything.
It does. Well, and with the kid thing, if you're struggling to find even any one little thing right now, something I advised our brother on, and he told us, this was years ago, and with one of his kids who was hard as a teen. And he said, well, that changes everything. I said, speak life into their potential.
Mm-hmm.
What have you taught them to be? I mean, you have taught these kids from a young age to be men, people of character, people of integrity, people of honesty, people, can't think of another word, and I stopped because you were coughing. So
I'm trying so hard not to. It's like I just feel so.
I just don't remember what you said. Mm-hmm. And so, speak that over him. Yeah. I believe you're going to be a man of strong character. Yeah. I believe you're going to be a man of integrity.
Yeah. If you have a kid who's arguing with you all the time and you feel like you're going to beat your head into a wall, it'd be like, okay, the fact that you are so strong in belief of what, you stand up for what you believe. And even if it becomes arguing someday as an adult, that's going to be a very great characteristic in standing firm in what you believe and not letting people walk all over you. And
it's standing up for other people too, because I know some of my kids get themselves in situations where they're standing up for their siblings.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't have any business.
You're not involved here.
But also I'm like, but I do really like that. So do more of that, just not when I'm parenting.
Yeah. Do it to other people. Stand up to it for other people.
Anyways, so I love that challenge. Next time a compliment comes your way, pause, hear it, acknowledge it. If you're really struggling to believe it, bring that to God.
Yeah.
But say thank you. It's really not hard. Let's just practice right now.
Okay.
Melissa, I really love that sweatshirt.
Thank you.
Oh, and me?
Oh, Rachel, I really love your sweatshirt. I actually do. I told her that yesterday.
I like hers too. It's just really not hard. Thank you. Like, even if you think or someone's like, you look cute today, and you're like, I look like a dump. It's kind of like, thank you.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Even though I think I look like a dump. Like, anyway, I like that challenge. So, do you have anything else?
No, I think this is good stuff.
I think it was good too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys haven't had time to share us, you're slacking, so do that.
We've given you plenty of time.
Rate us, review us. We would love to see those 5 stars because it puts us out in the algorithm. And,
gets more people. We get in front of more people.
Get in front of people. Yeah.
All right.
And we want to be in front of people. No. Yeah. If we're ministering to you at all, we want to minister to other people.
Right. So. Exactly.
All right. Have a great day, you guys.
Bye.
You might feel that your life is a mess, but don't feel bad. Ours is too, but we own a microphone and we have no shame. That's why we'll talk about how our life is a mess nonetheless. That's the name of our podcast.